Now consider another example in which we also want to compute the demand function and the consumer has exactly the same preferences as before, but there is a government policy that requires that the consumer has to buy at least 1 unit of good X. It may buy more, but he has to buy at least 1 unit of good X. So question, what happens to the demand curve? Well, the best way to think about the problem is to think about it graphically. We know from before, we have here P, here X. We know from before that the marginal benefit function in this case is equal to A over X. Also, we know that at a price of A before, the demand, I'm going to write this with an index of before, at A was equal to 1. Okay? Now, what does this mean for us? Well, suppose that now the policy has taken effect. There's a mandatory minimum purchase of 1 unit. And of course, the consumer can always only buy 1 unit at any price, but he may be willing to buy more. So suppose, for example, that you have a price below this value of A that gives you what the minimum buying constraint is. So let's say you have a price by this. I hope that you see that nothing has changed. That at this price, even though the consumer has to buy at least 1, the consumer wants to buy more than that. The consumer wants to buy here, which is greater than 1. So I hope that you see that for any price in this range, which is at or below price equal to A, we have that the demand curve is just as before. The key difference that has changed is what happens when the prices are above in that range. Well, here, before the consumer wanted to be here at quantities less than 1, but now is forced to be at 1. So now the demand function looks like this. Okay. So in this region, we have that the demand function before is equal to the demand function after. But in this upper region, we have that the demand before is less than the demand after. Now, I have a question for you. Are the consumers better off or worse off for prices greater than A? I hope that you can see that the intuition is trivial and that the consumers are actually worse off. If the constraint is binding and they have to buy too much, they are worse off than they were before. And the idea is very simple. So take a price like this one, let's say. Before, the consumers were buying this much, which is less than 1. Now they're asked to buy all of this much. But notice that they're asked to buy all of these units here at a price that exceeds their marginal value. So that makes the consumers worse off.